I finally drew a set of plans for this sander, so this video is about announcing that, and I thought I'd also show a few other aspects of this sander. So this sander is actually meant to take these belts that are 1.5 or 38 millimeters wide, but I wanted to see how well it would work as a belt grinder, so I took one of these 2-inch belts and I cut it down to that width, which left me that scrap, and I thought I'd make a really narrow platen to see how it would do for very detailed sanding, getting into corners that you can't easily get into. And with this metal belt that I cut down for it, I experimented with grinding away one of these drywall screws, but it took 10 seconds to grind that screw into oblivion, whereas on my belt grinder I could do that in 5 seconds. So while I don't plan on using this thing for metal grinding, I did experiment and I managed to grind the end of this metal rod to this shape just using the belt grinder and spinning it with a drill against the belt. And sanding wood and metal on the same sander is really not such a good idea anyways, because you don't want to mix the dust with sparks, especially if you're sucking them into a dust collector, which I've actually got down here. And this is my belt grinder that I built a couple of years ago, and even though I made an enclosure for it for trying to collect dust when using it with wood, I decided never to use it for that because it has a design flaw. And that is that the lower wheel is quite a bit bigger than the upper wheel, and what that means is a lot of dust doesn't get flung off the lower wheel because there's less centrifugal force, but it does get flung off the top wheel because that one's smaller, so there's more acceleration going around that one, and that makes for a rather poor dust collection for wood dust. So this design is much better that way because there's 2 chances for the dust to get flung off of the wheels while still in the enclosure before it comes up here. And sorry about the background noises, there's no daycare or school these days. So I just had that tracking way off when I put that belt in there, and it ground into the frame a little bit. So I'm going to put a metal guard right there to protect against that. And the belts for this sander are actually cut off of 6x48-inch belts that I use on this one, because when the belts are too dull for this one, they're still good for this one because I'm always sanding in a much smaller area for this one. And this is an old belt, and this one I've already cut another belt off of it, and I cut those using just a utility knife clamped to 2 pieces of wood, and cutting those belts goes roughly like this. Oops. So that worked pretty good. I only got a little bit off track here. There's a slight step in the edge. And there's the inevitable question of how much does it cost to build this thing? But I didn't spend a penny on this. This motor came out of a friend's old dishwasher. Had to build a fancy starting circuit for it though. The Baltic birch, I already had some around. I really didn't use that much for it. The belts I cut from old sanding belts from my other sander. The shafts and bearings, a lot of printers use 8mm shafts, and those fit perfectly inside the ball bearings from roller skate wheels, and I've managed to get some old ones like that. So here's one of those roller skate bearings on the shaft. And of course I have shafts like that kicking around because any shaft that could be used for a machine, I save. And the next question is, how long does it take to build? Well, I actually timed myself with this one using this camera here. That's a camera up here hooked up to a Raspberry Pi, and it does time lapses. And I've tabulated how long I spent in the shop building that, including tidying up and painting and all that. And I'm 19 hours of shop time into this project, so hopefully it wouldn't take you that much longer. And my time includes filming and also debugging a few details of the plans, as well as coming up with this fancy NVR starting circuit for the motor. And now a quick look in the plans. You will have to buy them to get a better look, but if you bought my 1" by 42" strip sander plans already, you can re-download those set of plans and get these plans for free because I've bundled both of those plans together now.